Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and the 1993 film Hocus Pocus. Now, why would I be talking about the 1993 film Hocus Pocus in conjunction with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? The reason why is they're linked, right? The character Winifred Sanderson, the character Winifred Sanderson, the leader of the Sanderson sisters, in the movie Hocus Pocus, is the most accurate Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard ever to be put into an American live-action film ever. And this absolutely includes the 2000 film Dungeons & Dragons, right? She is a spot-on, perfect Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard, okay? So let's dig into why, all right? So first, let's talk about the movie, the 1993 film Hocus Pocus, so I can give you some context for Winifred Sanderson, iconic 16th level wizard of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? As defined by Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, all right? I think she perfectly shows what it means to be a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard. Okay, and I will back this up with evidence. All right? Okay, but let's talk about it. So one, this video contains spoilers for the 1993 Disney film Hocus Pocus. All right, so Hocus Pocus is a comedy, horror, fantasy film. It really does check all of these boxes. It is a comedy. It absolutely is a horror movie. If you don't think it's a horror movie, you're not paying attention. There's some horrific stuff in this film. And then fantasy. It's absolutely a fantasy film. It is all three of these. I had never seen this movie, which kind of shocks me. I just watched it on Labor Day weekend. So I'd seen it for the first time ever on Labor Day weekend. It is a pure and wonderful joy. I absolutely loved this film, okay? But I'm not here to just talk about a film I enjoyed. This movie really very genuinely connects to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition through Winifred Sanderson, who is an iconic 16th level Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard, and I'll explain how. All right. So basically, the film is about Salem, Massachusetts, and it is about witches who were using children to extend their life and using them as spell components in all kinds of dark rituals and in casting spells in 1693. They're caught by the Salem people, and they are burned as witches. As they are about to be killed, Winifred Sanderson casts a spell which will bring them back to life. She sets up a ritual where if anyone completes the ritual, her and her sisters, the Sanderson sisters, will be returned to life 300 years later. So all this takes place in 1693. And then, and so let me just talk about the Winifred sisters, okay? These witches from 1693 Salem, Massachusetts. So it is Mary, so Winifred is the leader. She goes by Winnie, and she is absolutely the leader of the sisters. Winnie is played by Bette Midler. She is one of my all-time favorite actresses. Probably between her and Molly Ringwald. She's probably a better actress than Molly Ringwald. But I'm a huge, huge fan of Bette Midler. And especially the movie Beaches. And many, many other things. I'm just a huge fan of Bette Midler. All right. Sarah has a siren song, and she is played by Sarah Jessica Parker. And also Mary, the Winifred sister Mary, is played by Kathy Najimini. Okay, so the Winifred sisters are Winnie, Sarah, and Mary. Okay, and basically Winnie's essentially her feat would be leadership, right? And then Sarah has a siren song, which is actually not a spell; it's like an ability she has. And then Mary can smell really well. Specifically, she can smell children from like significant distances, right? So those would be like their feats, right? By the way, without a doubt, these witches Their alignment is as follows. Winnie is absolutely lawful evil. Sarah is chaotic evil. And Mary is literally neutral evil, right? But they are all straight evil. Like, if there's any question... There's literally a line in this movie where Winifred says, "We are witches, we are evil." There's a scene in this movie where they go and they bust into like a Hollywood... I haven't even talked about the part where they get to the future. There's a scene in this movie where the three sisters accidentally see somebody in a... Or actually mistake someone who is in a... Mistake someone who is in a Satan costume, and they call him Master. Like, they are straight evil. This movie does not play games with the alignment of the Sanderson sisters. They are straight evil, which I love a pure evil villain. I get all the nuanced, everybody has a reason for everybody. These people eat children. Like, this is no, they actually don't. Sorry, let me back that up. The Sanderson sisters do not eat children. What they do is they prepare them as a spell component and then suck their life essence into them to make their lives longer. Like, these are straight Darth Vader level villains. Like, there's not a lot of ambiguity here, right? Okay, I love this movie, and I really think the Sanderson sisters are super cool. All right, so what happens, right? So basically, they're back in time. They're totally doing their witchcraft. They get caught by the Salem people, and then Winifred Sanderson sets up this ritual, a triggering ritual, which will bring them back to life. Now, it is a black flame. She sets it up so that if a black flame candle that she has prepared is lit by a virgin on All Hallows Eve, it will rise them up. Okay? And so 300 years later, that happens, right? And I just want to talk about it. Like, this is straight Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition ritual, right? All the components. So, right? So, who? You have to have a virgin. When? All Hallows Eve. What? You have to light the black the black candle. The black candle is a spell component, right? It is pure ritual. Exactly the way the game describes it. All the components, all the parts. This movie, you're just... So one of the reasons why I'm talking about Hocus Pocus is the movie just portrays Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition magic to a T. Even though it came out, 22 years before Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition was written, right? Now, so basically rituals are shown extremely well in the film. Right, so basically who resurrects, who actually triggers the ritual, that's a better way to say it. Who triggers the ritual to bring the Sanderson sisters back to life for one night, right? Well, that is Max. All right. So let's talk about the Dennisons. So the Dennisons are a family who live in 1993, the current time of the movie, and there's a boy named Max who moved from California all the way up to Salem, Massachusetts. He has a sister named Danny, and his mother is named Jenny, and his father is named David. And so they're a family, and he comes to Salem. And they come right on, All Hallows Eve, right? So Max is pretty sad because he doesn't really like missing his California friends, and but when he's in school, he meets this very nice girl named Allison, who becomes his love interest, kind of a boyfriend girlfriend thing there. And Allison goes on this adventure with Max and Danny as they accidentally bring the Sanderson sisters. Trigger ritual, right? They trigger the ritual to go off. The Sanderson sisters are raised back to life for one night in All Hallows Eve. The Sanderson sisters are like, well, this is great being alive for one night, but we need to complete our ritual to give us ourselves longer life, or we'll die at the end of this night. So they need to gather a whole bunch of children and then suck their life essences out, right? Fantastic plot. That's a pure baller plot, especially for a Disney movie, right? Love it, all right? So basically all this is going on. And one thing I forgot to tell you is in 1693, when the reason that the Sanderson sisters were caught in their witchcraft was they kidnapped Emily Banks, like about an 8-year-old girl. Okay, Emily's brother Thackeray Banks, right? He realizes the witches have abducted his sister. He goes and finds them at their witch shack. right? And he interrupts their spell and then tells his buddy, "Hey, go bring all the townspeople." They witness the fact that they're trying to suck the life essence out of this 8-year-old girl with their witchcraft, right? And so all this is going on, and so Thackeray Binks is the reason that the Sanderson sisters are caught in their witchcraft, just caught red-handed, right? Now, what ends up happening is when this happens, Winifred Sanderson is so upset that she curses Thackeray Binks, and he then becomes an immortal cat who lives for 300 years and is right there when Max, Danny, and Allison need the help, stopping the Sanderson sisters from taking all the kids in the town and sucking their life essences out to give themselves super long lives, right? All right. So basically, that's the basic structure, okay? Now, why do I say that Winifred Sanderson is the best on-screen American live-action wizard that has ever been put on screen in an American live-action film? Here's why. One, she is iconic Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard, okay? I'll explain it out, right? So one, she actually uses a spell book. And they literally show the spell book right up close, right? And in the spell book, she has written her spells page after page after page, and each spell takes between 1 and 3 pages. Pretty much exactly like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? Her spell book is pure Vancian magic. Write the spell, and she literally says, "Oh, I can't remember that spell. I have to see the book again," right? This is like pure Vancian magic, right? Which was really exciting to see in a live-action film. I was so over the moon for this movie. I absolutely love this movie. It's so good. Hocus Pocus is an absolute must-see for every single Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master and player, because you will see, okay, and here's the reason why, right? One, you're going to see that I'm correct. Winifred Sanderson is the most iconic example and the best example of a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard ever put onto American live-action screen in any film, right? I would even extend that to television as well. But the other thing, the other reason why that's really, really important to understand is high fantasy and low fantasy. So I've been listening a lot to Lindsay Ellis. I highly recommend her YouTube content. She is a film critic, and she just talked recently about high fantasy and low fantasy. There's a lot of people who have different definitions. She explained this in a very good definition that I thought was really excellent. So high fantasy would be Game of Thrones, right? So it's a high fantasy setting, right? And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there's not much magic and it's low," but you'll get where I'm going. So high fantasy setting. Low fantasy setting is portal fantasy, right? Now, portal fantasy has been around for a long time, a lot longer than I thought. And I really love portal fantasy. Portal fantasy is when you bring fantasy elements into the modern world, right? And this is called low fantasy because a lot of people besmirch it. They say it's not really good fantasy stories, right? But to be clear, this started with the Chronicles of Narnia is portal fantasy, right? It's low fantasy. And there's a ton of examples of portal fantasy. And just as Lindsay Ellis defines low fantasy, which I agree with her definition on, the Hocus Pocus is a low fantasy, portal fantasy film. It is bringing fantasy elements into a modern world. And as Dungeon Masters, right, we read the books. We read, we've all read, many of us have read Dritz Do'Urden. We've watched the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. We've read the books, right? But when you get to see Dungeons & Dragons style magic performed in a film, in a live-action movie, it brings the actions alive. It brings the spell components alive. It brings the class of wizard alive, right? And that's our job as Dungeon Masters, is to bring wizards alive to our players. That when a player is playing a wizard, we fully understand what that means from the perspective of, what does a wizard's home look like? Well, Winifred Sanderson's, Witch Shack is a pretty good example of what a wizard's home would look like. What kind of relationships do wizards have, right? With their siblings, with regular people. Winifred Sanderson is an awesome door for us to see wizards more closely, to see it in a way that we've never seen it before on the page, right? Or in an animated way. It's just something really special. And Bette Midler brought Winifred Sanderson to life in a way that is just really fascinating and fantastic and real. Like, it's powerful, right? So if you're a Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master, you have to see 1993 Hocus Pocus as soon as possible. All right, let me tell you why Winifred Sanderson is the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard ever put onto American live-action film. All right, one, here's what she casts in the film. In the film, and everything is spot on to how it appears within Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, okay? Raise the Dead, 5th level necromancy spell. She casts Levitate, second level transmutation spell. She casts Fly, 3rd level transmutation spell. She casts True Resurrection in this film, 9th level necromancy. She casts Command, 1st level enchantment spell. She casts Fireball, 3rd level evocation spell. She casts Dominate Monster in this film, 8th level enchantment spell. She casts Dominate Person in this film, 5th level enchantment spell. She casts True Polymorph, 9th level transmutation spell. She casts Wish, 9th level conjuration. She casts Prestidigitation, cantrip transmutation. She casts Lightning Bolt, 3rd level evocation spell. Okay? So you have necromancy, transmutation, enchantment, evocation, conjuration, all of these awesome schools being cast by one. Now, based on the number of spells she casts in a single day, okay, Winifred Sanderson is absolutely a lawful evil wizard of 16th level, because she casts 9th level spells, and that's the absolute minimum that you would need. All right? I did look at how much she casts. 16th level is the correct level for her. So with her casting all of these, you know, it's really, you can very clearly see she is just an iconic example, the most iconic example of a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard that has ever been put into an American live action film. Right? Now, why does it beat the 2000 Dungeons & Dragons film? Because that film was, I don't want to say anything too terrible because I love Dungeons & Dragons, but that was not the movie anyone was hoping for. Right? And it really doesn't, absolutely no classes or anything is Paragon or even canon from that film. It's just, it wasn't what anybody was hoping for. It really doesn't count, air quotes. Not good film. Right? But this, you know, this person clearly understood, the person who wrote this, clearly understood Vancian magic. And this movie just perfectly portrays Vancian magic in it. So, I think the last thing I'm going to say is this is an amazing film, and if you're a Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master, you absolutely need to see 1993 Hocus Pocus as soon as possible. And I challenge anyone else out there to tell me a more iconic example of a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard than Winifred Sanderson. She wins everything when it comes to American live action film. She is absolutely the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition wizard that has ever been put into an American live action film. I challenge anyone to tell me better. Please do so in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and please like and subscribe. Take care.